Hello everyone, Justin here and welcome to 4am Art. In this video I'm going to show you how I drew this horse using a pencil. So let's just go ahead and get started, and I'm just roughing out the basic shapes, of course. This will be the front of the head right here, and it goes to the big cheek section. The ears will be right around up here, and the far ear is going to be more of a side view. Here you can see the inside of the ear and just a little bit of the back, and the neck then goes across to the side. So just follow along. I'm gonna talk a little bit as I do this and kind of watch how I put in the shading and all that. So let's see, the eye will be right about here, so we'll just draw an oval shape, and we can put the details a little bit better in a little bit. And the horse's mane will be going over in between the ears, and because he's not moving, it's just gonna kind of lay flat and start falling over the face. And you don't want this to be too regular looking, because it will be random as far as how it falls. So I'll continue that over here, and in this case we're gonna have the hair, a lot of the hair is going to be falling on this side, some of it quite long, but there'll be other hair strands falling on the other side, of course. Alright, so I'm just roughing out kind of the direction the hair is going to go. And let's go ahead and put the harness, which is a combination of leather straps and metal rings. So we've got a ring right here, and say another piece of metal right here, kind of like a buckle. And we can fine-tune the detail of that as well in a little bit. So we've got our belt going over the muzzle. I don't know what the proper term is for a horse. And it's gonna go underneath right here. So then we've got this belt that goes to the ring, and I'm just gonna draw a slight curved shape, and another one that goes from here. You have to make sure that you extend it far enough that it's like wrapping around the ring, okay? And we'll do the same thing here. And going underneath the cheek. Whatever is in front of other parts of whatever it is you're drawing, I'll try to draw that first. So it just makes sense, because then whatever's like behind, like the horse is physically behind the leather and the harness thing here. So I'm gonna be putting the details, drawing in the details of this harness first. By the way, I'm just using a HB lead pencil right now. And I'm going to start adding some shading. I won't really make this too super realistic, otherwise that would take me too long. This is going to be just a quick demo of how I'm drawing this horse. Now I noticed that I am using some darker outlines. You don't really see physical dark lines in real life, but this just helps to make it more contrasty, more defined, and to me I like it as far as being more graphic. So I'm just drawing in the tones for the leather, and I'm just using very light strokes here and varying the pressure to get some of the darker tones, as well as, you know, just repeating the same lines will make that tone darker. Let's go on to this part of the leather, and again here's my outline, and I'm gonna start shading in, adding some midtones here. I notice that I'm leaving kind of like the upper edge lighter, or trying to, and that just shows that there's variation in the shadow, the tone, just because of the way the light is hitting the upper part. It'll be darker. I'm sorry, it'll be lighter. And it also kind of gives it a feeling of that this leather strap isn't flat. It is moving in different directions, and therefore will have different values. All right, let's go to this particular buckle. And this particular strap is actually going through a little slot here. Same with all of these. So I'm going to have the leather kind of stop like right here. And there'll be a slot right there. You're not going to really see the slot, but you can see that the leather stops before going into the inner hole of this buckle. Alright, again, I'm gonna put in some midtones, and it's gonna wrap, as I mentioned, around the bottom of this muzzle here, or cheek, and goes underneath. Okay, so let's just go ahead and start working on the horse a little bit. So the mouth will be, let's see, the lower lip will come up and go inward here, and this is where the mouth is going to be. So let's just put the mouth kind of like that. And again, here's my somewhat lighter outline, just to define the shape of the nose. And let's go back to the strap again, because as I mentioned, I tend to like to draw that in first, just because it's in front, and put in some midtones here. Again, very light strokes, and we're going to add some shadows here in a little bit. But actually, let me just go ahead and add some darker tones right here. This leather is sitting on top of the muzzle, and it's going to cast a shadow on the skin, on the surface of the horse, and that's the reason for putting these darker tones. And I'll make it darker right here as well, and right here, because the buckle is creating shadows as well. In fact, I'm gonna switch to my 4B lead and make these tones a little bit darker. So 4B lead is, or actually this is 6B lead, creates pretty dark tones. And I'm just gonna add a little bit more dark tones right here and here, as well as right here. Alright, let's go to the eye. While we're here, I'm going to draw the upper eyelid, and again, this is going to cast a shadow on the eyeball, so it's going to be kind of darker right underneath that upper lid. And there'll be some pretty dark tones here, and of course we've got our pupil, and I want to make the eyeball just a little bit dark as well. So by manipulating these shadows, these tones, you'll be able to get a three-dimensional shape out of your drawing. Let's see here. I'm going to start actually adding the hair, making it dark. And I'm going to use these long strokes to indicate separate hairs. And I'm not going to make it all too dark because there is light hitting it, and in between then will be shadows that are in between the strands of hair, and that helps. This just basically helps separate some of the strands. Maybe some stray strands right here, a couple darker lines, and that just helps to separate. And I'm gonna go ahead and make the upper part, as far as the hairs, a little bit darker, and just to give this drawing a little bit more contrast as well. I don't want this to look too flat. And I can also add a few stray strands here at the top. Alright, so let's work on the ear a little bit. So I'm going to make the insides of the ears darker. So I'm putting a lot of pressure on the pencil right here, and then lightening up again because I want a mid-tone right here. And then just on the inside of this edge of the ear, again I'm going to push hard, get some dark tones, and start to show the fold of the ear here. Back to my 2B lead, I'm going to shade the back of the ear. Try to keep it as even as I can. And then the back of the ear here. And continue the hair behind this ear. So notice the ear, the edge of the ear is going to be defined by my dark tones here of the hair, of which I'm going to try to add some detail, keeping the lines this way, this direction. And now I've got some hair coming over the neck. Some darker lines to show some shadow, but overall most of the lines here to show the hair will be going roughly in the same direction. And I'm not going to add too much detail over here. I'm going to concentrate, really the focus is going to be on the face. So I'll just add a few more lines here. Just to finish this part off a little bit. And get a more sketchy feel for the rest of the neck and the hair, the mane back here. I'm just going to go ahead and put the nostril. The opening is like right here, but notice that this part is going to catch a lot of light. I'm going to leave that a little bit lighter, like that. But as you go over here, that's going to be more in shadow, because say the light is coming from up here in the upper left, this part's going to be in shadow, and then it starts to lighten up as it goes over here. And then this blends now with the outer part, the skin on the outer part of the face. And now I can start adding some light tones, just so I don't have this stark contrast between this line and the face. You always want to add a little bit of shadows, some tones, even light tones, just to show that the surface of the face of the horse isn't flat. There will be undulating shadows. The tonal values will change. Darker here, darker there, depending on that particular animal, that particular horse. And now I can make the lip a little bit darker as far as the separation between the upper and the lower lip. And again, just some very light tones just to give the lips here, the chin, some substance. And I am using just random strokes just to get my tones in. They don't all have to be the same direction. They don't have to be perfectly smooth. It depends on what you're after. You can look for a more sketchy feel to your drawing, or if you want it to be more realistic and you're going for more realism, you could use a piece of tissue paper or like a soft brush, bristle brush, to try to get your tones nice and even. I'm not going to go for that today, so I'm just going to go ahead and start darkening this whole side of the face with very light pencil strokes. Okay, so far what I've done here is just put a general mid-tone all the way across, and now I'm going to start varying the surface here, and I'm just going to add more lines, more shadows, more tones, and I'm going to make it somewhat random, although it's not really random. I am trying to indicate the planes of the head, so I'm going to make it a little bit darker here under the eye, and I'm just doing the same kind of shading as I did the first time, except now I'm adding a second layer, and of course you will get a darker tone as you do this. And as I add more of these tones, especially here at the bottom, it starts to kind of indicate where the muscles are. It's not going to be a flat surface, and so the tonal variations will be there as far as the undulations on the surface as you add more of these lines and darker tones. And of course, as we get to the bottom here, you'll have even darker tones because that's where it's going to be darkest, the least light is hitting. Now you can actually also tell that I was a little bit more careful as far as trying not to show the pencil lines over here as much as I did here. Here it's kind of rough with sketchy lines. You can really see the pencil strokes. But actually what I'll go ahead and do is kind of blend that in a little bit more, just so it matches what I was doing over here with the cheek. Alright, so just kind of go over, try to blend it, try to hide the pencil lines a little bit more. And I'm using very light strokes here, very little pressure. Alright, so I'm going to add actually another ring right here. And another leather strap that goes underneath. Notice too, as you start to shade, you'll tend to get a flat spot on your pencil tip, on your lead. And if you just turn your pencil just a little bit, you can now take advantage of the sharpness that you created while you were shading. And you can get these sharp lines. So when you go back though, be sure to lightly touch the drawing first to see where you're at as far as the location on the lead, so you don't inadvertently get a sharp line when you don't want that. Switching to my 4B lead, 6B lead, and I just want to make this a little bit more graphic, even as I said that I was trying to make it the tones a little smoother. I do want some really dark tones just to give it more contrast, as I mentioned prior. And like right here, it's not quite dark enough, so I'm just gonna make it really dark, and maybe underneath the upper lip, and over here where the shadow area is of the nose, the nostril. And add some more shadows that the strap is creating and the ring up here. So let's continue right over here with adding some extra darker tones just to break up this evenness of the midtones that I had initially put in. Alright, so I'm getting to the part, as I mentioned, I wanted this part to be more sketchy and keep the focus really on this part of the drawing, the face. So I'm going to go ahead and add some more of the mane, the hair that's kind of hanging. And I think I'm pretty much done. I'm just going to go ahead and finish this up. So I hope you found this video useful. If so, please like, share, and subscribe. And I will see you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye.